been interested in history since I was a kid. And I suppose in my teens, my late teens, I started looking into sort of moving away from Catholicism. Was what I knew, and I just didn't sit right with it. So I kind of looked into the early church because I thought, well, there must have been something before it became Catholicism. And as you look into it, you realize that, yeah, there was something else. It was called paganism. And they've basically kind of adopted so much of, not just Celtic paganism, but sort of, the Roman and Greek paganism and little bits of other things. So I just kept on going. I thought, well, I really like this sort of whole Celtic sort of connection with the Druids and the early church in Britain and Ireland. And of course, there's a big environmental theme. And I'd kind of decided at this point in time that I didn't really believe that Jesus was a literal son of God. I kind of regard him more like a prophet, I suppose, like Jewish or Muslim people would. So I was kind of like, the bet's off really as far as what God actually is. So I looked into a lot of things. I'm very interested in Hindu and Mesopotamian and Egyptian culture as well. But it really sat well with me because I suppose it's from a part of the world where I live anyway, and I've grown up. And I really like the whole connection with trees because I'm mad into trees and gardens and the natural world anyway. So it just seemed like the perfect fit, really. Yes, I am. I've been involved in the Order of Bards, Wits and Druids for almost 20 years now, I think. I'm not as active with them at the moment because I've got too many projects going on at the moment. I'm also involved in the Druid clan of Dana here in Ireland, which is a sort of subdivision of the Fellowship of Isis. So again, not as involved as I would like to be, partly because I'm doing writing and also working on renovating and extending this old ruined house, which takes up an awful lot of my time. So I would say next year I'll become more involved again with these two organizations and, reforging connections with people and, our Druid Grove and everything like that. But for the moment, I'm just overextended, I suppose. And I think it's really important, I think, to know what your limitations are and not to push yourself to the point where your health suffers. I've done that in the past, and since having done that, I'm a lot more mindful of moderating what I'm doing so I don't use up all my energy and become ill. That's a good one. I don't really have one. I've listened to lots of people talking about writing and blah, blah, and you should write every single day and you should do that much and you should do an hour, blah, blah. I think that's complete and utter nonsense. Because, I could force myself to sit down and write for an hour or two every day, but, a lot of it will be absolute rubbish because if you're not feeling inspired, if you don't feel you've anything to say or you're not in the mood to do it, why force yourself to do it? So, I am quite disciplined when I start on an article or a book. I will, put a lot of work into it over time, but I don't have this, like, this day, I've got to do it every day. I might work on a book, say, 3 or 4 days in a week, but only on if I actually feel that me sitting down is going to be productive. If I'm feeling crap or I'm in a bad mood or, the oven just blew up and, I crash the car, I'm not going to sit down and try and write an article or whatever. So I think these hard and fast rules are really, I think they're a bit ridiculous. I think you need to be in the right frame of mind in order to produce any content that's actually worth reading. And that's really what's most important to me, is that I'm really happy with what I've written, and also that I think it's going to be interesting for someone else to read it. So if I'm just doing something self-indulgent or it's a bit boring, in the bin, forget it. So I think it more important than having a regime is to actually feel that you've got something that's worth saying. I tend to write quickly, so if I do an article, I'll often have it done in a day. It'd usually be about something I really want to write about. I feel impassioned to write, whatever, it might be 1,000 words or a few thousand words even. But I don't really write to order. I do it when, like I say, I feel inspired. I'm fortunate in that I don't have like a daily blog that I'm obliged to do. And I would hate to have that restriction because, as you say, if you don't feel you're in the right, you're not in good form, then, the strain of trying to come up with something interesting, I think you're not going to be able to achieve it every single day. So I would say, be disciplined with yourself if you can, but, why have a regime as such? Just write when you really feel you've got something good to say. I don't really think there is one book that defines my work, because I tend to hop around. I'm interested in lots of different things. I'm generally interested in all the arts, not just writing. And I'm, also interested in science and history and other things. So I think my work kind of reflects that, and that it's sort of, I haven't stuck to one genre or one particular area of the esoteric arts. But I would say, as far as Druidry is concerned, probably the Druid Garden is probably more representative of me, really, as a person, because it kind of brings together two things that I'm very passionate about. I'm very into nature and gardening. I love the Druid path, and I'm also very into the environment. I got involved in that when I was at college. There was a conservation group at this college. The whole place was overrun with rhododendrons, and virtually nothing else could grow. So we did a lot of hacking, actually, which is not very nice, but had to be done in order to allow native species to re-establish themselves. And from then onwards, I was involved in things like Greenpeace. I did a lot of actions for them. And, I'm involved in Friends of the Earth, Extinction Rebellion. So even now, this is like, God, how many years later? I'm 30 plus years later. Well, I'm getting close to 40 now. I'm still involved in the environmental issues. And the Druid, I have it here. There you go. If you want to see it, the Druid Garden. There's a lot about the environment and a lot about history and how we ended up getting to a point where we've concreted over half the earth. And, we've got all these problems which are very much of our own making. And the idea of actually kind of taking back that power from government and from corporations or whatever, or the people on the telly who tell you what you should do with your life, I've tried with that book to give people practical instructions on how they could actually, transform things. In their, your own garden, you can plant loads of trees, you can plant vegetables, herbs, whatever. And, it makes you more self-sufficient, but you're also doing something really positive that's going to help. I mean, if everybody in, or was it 8 billion people, more or less, if everybody who's old enough planted a tree, should it be overnight, there'd be another like 5 or 6 billion trees on the planet. So, there's a lot of stuff that we can actually do. And I think it's empowering to take things into your own hands as much as you can, rather than sitting there waiting for, I don't know, the president of whoever to fix everything. They're not going to do that. We've got to do it ourselves, I think. So that's an important book for me, an important milestone in my writing career, if you like. I would say probably one of my favorite writers is Philip K. Dick. I like the whole genre of science fiction, particularly the older stuff, going from the, the 50s, 60s, 70s. And there's a complexity with his work, which you just have no idea what's coming. You really don't. He was really off the wall, a very strange man, but he was a genius, I think. And he just had this incredibly inventive mind. And, well, you probably know yourself, you watch a lot of films, you can read like some Boyle novel, and you can predict what's going to happen. And you can't really do that with his work. And he's actually obviously inspired an awful lot of films. A lot of his work has been turned into very successful films. Probably one of my favorite all-time films actually being Blade Runner, which is based on Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is actually just a short story. And, sort of different in a way from the film. But I think that's what really introduced me to him. I remember watching that film when it must have been about 11 or 12, and I was absolutely blown away by it. I couldn't believe it. It was so futuristic, so atmospheric, that film, and very kind of emotionally impactful without actually saying a lot. The emotions sort of very much in between the lines rather than actually stated. And of course, the music, the wonderful music, the late Vangelis, I absolutely loved that. And I went out and bought the soundtrack album because, I nearly wore it out listening to it. It's such a fantastic record, even now. In fact, that film stands up so well, but obviously that whole thing wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Philip K. Dick, who wrote the story in the first place. So yeah, very, very inspirational, an inventive writer. I like the fact that you can convey a message to an audience. So really, you've got a kind of blank canvas. You could say anything you like, really, to people. And obviously, if you connect with them, they're going to be receptive to what you have to say. So, I mean, it can be something just fun, or it could be deadly serious. I think that's great. I suppose the other benefit is if you have any kind of success, you get opportunities to travel, to go to places. So, for instance, I'm going to Scotland, where I was born, actually. I haven't been there for, something like 15 years or so. But I've got a good excuse to go. And I'm speaking at a conference, so I'm going to take a holiday and spend a week there. But if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be going at all, So that's an added benefit of writing, is you get to do these kind of things. I've got sort of 3 sort of books in the pipeline, which one I've just about finished, which is a collection of essays. And I'm working on a photographic book. I've done a lot of photography over the years, sort of semi-professionally. So it's sort of a coffee table book come history book. I'll be working with some other photographers on completing that, because I don't have enough stock myself, and to be honest, I don't have the time to write it all and go and take all the photographs. So there will be places I've visited, but I have 2 or 3 professional photographers I'll be working with on that project. And the last one is sort of like my last word on Irish Druidism or Druidry, which is a kind of a more long-term project. Might take 2 or 3 years or even longer possibly, to write that one. But I imagine that's probably going to be my last book on the subject, because, well, I don't like to repeat myself generally. There's only so much you can say. And, there's things you can't say, really. I suppose they're reserved for in person. If you're going to teach somebody about Druidism, there are certain things I don't think you can share in a book. But as far as I can, that will probably be my last word on the subject, when it's done. That's such a difficult one. I've thought about this a lot. One of the things I was thinking, I'd love to go back to, when they destroyed the great Library of Alexandria, and run in there, grab a load of books, and then come back with them. But I mean, it's a lot of people think that most of those books in there are actually probably now in the Vatican archive, that they wouldn't have been that stupid to burn the thing down with all the books in there. I probably think Julius Caesar emptied it before it kind of caught fire. But I mean, that's just one of many things. I suppose if you had to pick one, yeah, that would be great, because I bet you supposedly they had histories of humanity in there going back 10,000 years from that point. So, that was a little bit before 0, wasn't it? So, you're going back to 10,000 BC then. If those histories did exist in there, I'd go in there and grab that and bring it back to now, if I could. I got into music when I was a kid, starting off with sort of classical music, recorder and clarinet, and wasn't very good at clarinet, so I moved to playing the cello, which I carried on with for a long time. And then I got into dance music, because I liked all kinds of music, rock mostly, and then I discovered dance music in the sort of late 80s, and thought, right, I got to learn how to make this. So I got involved in a couple of bands, and I sort of started my own band, which was called Children of Dub, which is sort of like weird sort of reggae influenced sort of mixture of sort of house music and ambient stuff, and loads of heavy bass as well. So that one was all very experimental and weird, and I had a lot of fun doing that. There's a couple of sort of vaguely, sort of covertly pagan songs there, but not overt, And I had a break from that, and then came back and did a final 5th album a few years later. And nowadays I just sort of potter about, I'm not really serious about it. I kind of think of music as being more a young person's thing. Certainly if you're in the sort of genre of sort of pop or dance music, very much sort of styles that are aimed at like younger people. So I think, I'm not bothered about sort of being involved in that anymore. I don't want to be going out DJing when I'm 72, But my stuff's still there online. You can download it or whatever. You can listen on Spotify and all that. There's a website as well, if anyone's interested to go and have a listen. You've got to be realistic about your own talents. But if you know that you have ability, that you have got something to say and you can express yourself well, then you really need to have faith in yourself and persevere, because it's very easy to give up. You're going to get knockbacks. You're going to get rejected. You're going to be told, "Oh, this is rubbish. It's unsaleable," or blah blah, or "It's not good enough." But if you do believe that, if you know your work's good, eventually someone will pick up on it, and a lot of it is just perseverance, really. And then the people that told you were crap, when you're suddenly successful 5 years later or whatever, they'll all be like, "Oh, we always believed in you." So if you don't have faith in yourself, you don't stand a chance. You've got to have sufficient faith that you can do it, to keep going and take the knocks and don't worry about them.